going to jump in. So today's session is actually going to primarily be on AI. So I know some of you at this point have heard me talk about AI a good bit. Some of you, it may be new to you. But last week, Microsoft actually put out their 2026 Work Trend Index. And they surveyed 20,000 people across 10 countries. So this isn't like a small data point. This is a huge data point. And they actually looked at 100,000 real AI conversations. So if you guys don't know this already, Microsoft actually owns the largest chunk of ChatGPT or OpenAI. And so they have access to all of these AI conversations. And so what they actually found, and I thought this was really interesting, they looked at all the AI conversations, and only 17% of the time were people actually producing work from those AI conversations. The rest of the time, they were actually using AI for what they called cognitive work. So that's analyzing information, solving problems, evaluating decisions, and thinking creatively. Now, a lot of people don't think of AI as a thought partner in the way that this survey is actually showing. It's exactly what AI was. In fact, that accounted for 49% of all conversations. Nearly half of all conversations that are happening on ChatGPT, on Claude, are actually helping to think through things. Now let that sink in for a minute. AI is not just a tool, it's a thinking partner. It's really a partner that you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, and help come up with better decisions, no matter what your role is at Birgo. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how do we actually treat AI as a teammate, because that's the difference in getting just a little bit of value from AI and getting a lot of value from AI. So let's kick things off and just do a little Zoom poll to see where you all are currently. Now, Zoom polls are totally anonymous, so I want you to answer honestly. And there's going to be 2 questions. The questions are, how often do you use AI for your work, or how often did you use AI for your work this past week? And you'll see the responses there. And then when you hit a road bump in your work, what's your first move? And it's okay if it's not to ask AI. I just want you to be honest. Are you Googling it? Are you asking a coworker? Are you asking AI? Or are you just pushing through it on your own? Go ahead and just answer honestly on that right now. Realized I didn't have the questions on the screen, but you all saw them. Here they are now. These are the 2 questions. I'll be popping the results up here. Just give you a couple more seconds. All right, looks like most of you are in at this point. Go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So in front of you, you should see the results. I'll just drag them over here so I can see them as well. But looks like, very, very spread in terms of how often you're using AI, with the majority of answers being either a few times or once or twice. So only about 20% of you are using it every day. Again, thanks for the honesty. About 5% of you are actually not using it at all. Great. That means there's lots of opportunity there. And then when you hit a road bump in your work, what's your first move? Most people responded to Google it. Second most is ask AI. And then it's between asking a coworker and pushing through on your own. So that's great. That helps me understand kind of where you are in terms of getting a baseline for what the opportunity might be. Now, before we jump into some practical uses of AI, I want to focus on mindset. Many of you know I'm big on mindset. From my perspective, it's about shifting that mindset to really help to change behavior. And so we're going to talk about how do you move from AI being a tool to AI being a teammate. So the first thing that you do is actually talk to it like a teammate. So I use Claude often. I grab it on my phone, I open a new chat, and I ask it a question. I talk to it like a teammate. If I have a hard problem, or maybe I was talking to a coworker or a friend that has a problem, I just ask Claude or ChatGPT, and I think out loud, bounce ideas off of it. I treat it like a friend or a coworker that I was going to bounce ideas off of. So actually talk to it, have a real conversation, ask it questions, ask it to ask you questions. So I use this terminology, grill me, which I'll talk about here in a minute. It's a Claude skill that I use to have it really drill me with questions when I'm trying to really think critically through a decision. And again, just treating it like a thinking partner instead of a search bar is kind of the mindset shift here. Second, I want you to trust it to challenge you. So this gets into this idea of, grilling you. Don't just type in a question and go with the response that it says. I want you to press in and say, hey, what am I not thinking about here? Give me the pros and cons. Help me weigh this decision. Don't just trust the response the first time, but actually ask it to drill you, to grill you, to ask you additional questions. And what you'll see, I think actually this is part of the reason that I switched to Claude from ChatGPT. The more you do that, the better it gets at really helping you get at the heart of the decision that you're trying to make. Claude is really good at reasoning. It's really good at thinking through the implications of a decision and helping you think through those pros, those cons, and making a really good informed decision. So ask it to poke holes, ask it, you could even say, hey, don't be polite with me. Give me totally, unfiltered feedback on this, and it'll do it. And then third, I want you to really start to develop the muscle of tuning to AI first. So instead of your gut reaction being to Google it or to ask a coworker, you go to AI and you ask AI first. This is really the difference between people who get a little bit of value and a lot of value out of AI. When you tune to it first, as almost like a reflex, and honestly, people ask me all the time, and I'm like, hey, have you asked Claude before you ask me? It starts to just build this muscle, build this reflex of, oh, okay, let me go there first. And then if I still can't solve it, go to a human. Because it does a great job, again, of reasoning and helping you think through it yourself before you go to Google or go to another human to as a sounding board. Now, it's never going to replace that human element. Don't get me wrong. I want you to always be using your coworkers for what your coworkers are good at. But there's a lot that AI is really good at, and sometimes better at than coworkers, and gives you a great opportunity to go there first. So in summary, the three things that I really want you to focus on from a mindset standpoint are talk to it like a teammate, have a conversation with it. Second, trust it to challenge you, be okay. And by the way, I actually this weekend got kind of annoyed with Claude because it was really pushing back on me. But just trust it to do that. Trust it to challenge you. And then third, turn to it first. It's really the opportunity to have that reflex, that muscle that says, hey, I'm going to actually ask AI first before I do anything else. So let's get really practical on what is AI, how do you use it, what can you actually get out of it from a work and a personal perspective. Well, first I want to explain there's really three different types of AI or three different ways in which you use AI. The first is probably what you're all most familiar with. It is a reactive assistant. So this is like Gemini, ChatGPT, or Claude Chat, where you're just asking it a question and it's coming back and giving you a response. The second is an actual task agent. So this has a defined workflow and a defined process, and you're extracting data, creating reports, maybe you're updating contracts, whatever it is, you're giving it a task to do and it's doing that task. And finally, third is digital staff. So this is really the place to move to where you have AI that is wired up 24/7 and it's doing work for you. And by the way, this is the direction that I'm heading in with some of my tasks is really building digital staff. Just received the Mac Mini to actually set that up here in the office over the weekend. And I'm excited to start to show you guys some of what that can actually do. And we're going to talk specifically about Claude. So Claude is what we've decided to implement as an organization here at Birgo. There's three different types of Claude. There's Claude Chat, which you can access in your browser, on your cell phone, or on the desktop app. And really, everyone should be accessing this. It's built for anyone that has a question. You can just ask it a question. And that's exactly what it does. It answers questions. Then there's Claude Cowork, which you can only access from the desktop app. So you can't access it on your mobile device. You can dispatch from your mobile device, like I showed at our quarterly meeting if you were there, but it's really meant to live on desktop apps. The reason for that is it stores memory locally on your computer. So it allows you to have a really big, robust memory and a bunch of files that inform these tasks that you're asking it to do. That's likely going to be primarily built for like the office team. And again, what it's going to do is complete tasks. And then there's Claude Code. You run that either from the desktop app or from terminal on my Mac is what I'm using it for. And that's really built for developers. Now, I actually do have a little bit of a development background in terms of I can write code in a couple languages. So I'm using Claude Code, and I'll show you how we're using that. But that's really for like 5% of people. It's very, very much kind of the minority of folks that are going to need to use that. So I want to actually show you a couple very practical use cases for how to use Claude. And I'm going to start with one that you might not expect that I'm going to start with. I want to show you actually how I used it to solve a maintenance issue. I know a lot of folks on our maintenance team are probably thinking, I don't need AI. Why would I ever use AI? Well, I'm going to show you exactly why. We had our ice maker break in our fridge at our house. And we called Don's Appliances. They came out and looked at it. They said, hey, the wires are broken. The ice maker is broken. We can't fix it. $1,600 for a new fridge. And Shannon and I were like, $1,600 for a new fridge? What the heck? I thought you guys fix appliances. And they were like, nope, it's not fixable. So I just took these 5 pictures of just the labels that I found on the side of the fridge. And I said, hey, can you help me fix this ice maker? It said, yep, let's get this going. From your pics, I can tell that this is a Whirlpool model, blah, blah, blah. Here, do this first to triage it. So it gave me all the things to do to triage it. I did all that. I said, it just keeps clicking. It's making this loud sound. It said, okay, those symptoms nail it. Here's what that actually means. This thing is broken. Here's what you have to fix. Here are the steps to do it. Would you like me to give you a couple places to buy the new one? I said, yep. It said, okay, great. Here's the product. Here's where you can buy it. I bought the product. I installed it myself. $100, done. So this is the power that you can get from AI, even as a maintenance person or even just anybody that needs to fix something around their house. So that's really what I want everybody to see is it's not, if you use it as a thinking partner and to really help you think through solving problems and fixing stuff, it's not just about, like, hey, office people are going to be using this. Here's a great example of, a maintenance solution through AI. This is something Mel actually shared in the collab AI thing. So these are called Claude skills. So here's actually a bunch of AI agent skills. These are free. This company shared with us. And I want you to just think through the possibilities here. Here are skills for leasing and operations, for accounting, for investors. And so let me show exactly what that looks like in Claude. So we have all of these skills built already on our organization in Claude. So you can go in here and look at skills and you can see all of these. Mel did a great job importing these. And you'll see a couple ones that I actually built. So this is called a Thrive values check. So it has all of the details of our core values here, what they look like, what they don't look like. And you could actually ask it a question like, hey, does this memo before I send this out look like it coincides with our core values? Here's a skill I built out called Grill Me. So this is like, it'll actually ask you a bunch of really tough questions about a decision that you're getting ready to make. Here is a skill that I built out for doing investor updates. This Brand Me. So I don't know if you saw that accountability chart that I showed a couple slides ago. Claude built that. And I just said, put it on Birgo's branding. And it put it on Birgo's branding. So these skills just make things a lot easier for you to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. So let me just show you an example. Here's like a document that, isn't on Birgo branding right now. So I'll just download this to my computer and upload it to Claude, and I'll say, hey, put this on Birgo branding, and we'll see how it does. So when you're running a skill, you can prompt it to do skills any number of ways. You'll see it says type / for skills, so I can type / and just say brand me like that and do that. Or I could say, hey, take this report, put it on Birgo branding. Let's do this. Why don't a couple folks, if you're comfortable, maybe post something in the chat that you think would be a good decision for us to maybe mess around with now, whether it's a decision where you're like, hey, should we sell this asset or not? Or how do I improve occupancy at this asset? Use the chat feature and just give me a couple ideas of, what are the things that we could be thinking about having Claude, just as I'm doing a little demonstration here in our last 10 minutes or so, kind of work through. So it's running that skill. While it's doing that, I'll just show you, again, co-work and code. These are the other two things. Now, I'm still working on merging my account. Mel's going to help me with this, but all of my history is here. So I'll just show you a little bit of kind of what I've done to ask. By the way, I got my camera fixed. So my camera is finally fixed here, thanks to Claude. It probably looks a lot nicer, but this was Claude telling me exactly what to do. And co-work, this is how I use co-work. I already showed you guys this, but I get like weekly HubSpot, YPO, weekly digest, and then I use Claude Code to build a couple things. While I'm waiting for y'all to post in chat and while it's doing that, let me just show you a Birgo app that I recently built. So this was built through Claude Code, so anybody can actually access this. If you go to app.birgo.com, what I did is I actually took those first 5 ideas that you all shared and built out an app. So you have to use Google to sign in. You have to have a Birgo email address to be able to sign in here. And just to kind of run you through it, again, just to help you see the power of AI. This asset management report and these reports here, which are still kind of warming up, are the same reports that we get from MoveOn.ai. I basically rebuilt them on our own dashboard. And MoveOn, took a few months to build them, and we pay them, I think, $3,500 a month. Here's basically the same dashboard that you can filter. It's got all of our properties here. You can pick a month that you want the report for. You can say, do I want monthly, quarterly, yearly? Do I want accrual, cash, or modified accrual, which is a hybrid? And it'll show all the data here. I also started to build out some of the things that were requested. Here's actually like a fund dashboard that I'm kind of starting to work on that Dan had actually kind of built out. This leasing funnel analytics, I think, is pretty good. Shows leads to tours, apps, all that stuff. You can then regenerate it. It'll pull from AppFolio, generate a report either weekly or monthly. So what I've done is I've started to take some of those things that you've emailed over to build at Birgo.com and actually just built them out right here. Now everybody will be able to access this. We'll go back to the folks who originally created these ideas, and we'll test them with them and say, hey, is this working and solving the problem that you were hoping to solve? All right, cool. I'm going to take Omar's examples here, and let's see if we can play with Claude a little bit. So give me 5 ideas to improve resident retention. Let's just throw grill me in there so that we can see what that looks like. So yeah, grilling you first per your ask. So here's what Claude will do. If you ask it to grill you, again, it gets kind of annoying, but it's going to ask you a lot of questions to like sharpen your focus. So like improve retention in the vintage asset can mean different things. It could be different problems. So like, what is the actual retention? What's the comp set? Why are residents actually leaving? And how do you know? What's the unit's economics of retention versus, turn? So it's asking me a bunch of questions. So, and then it's saying, hey, if you want me to skip the diagnostic and just throw some ideas, let me know. So let's just go skip the diagnostic. and let's see what it says. I'm going to flip over to that other account that I got to do on the brand thing real quick. Where'd it go? Or not. Maybe I broke it. Give me 1 second. Thank you for the ideas there, Omar. Got all kinds of tech issues this morning. All right, let's just do it again. So it'll work on that, but that's the example of the grill me thing. The other thing I wanted to show is so chat. This chat right here is the main thing that you all would be interacting with. This is really the thinking partner that I kind of mentioned earlier. You can see, and these ones with the little bubble, you can just see. I mean, this is how I'm using it. There are tons of things that you could just ask it, and it'll just crank out responses. So here are 5 ideas for that product: renewal, triggered unit refreshes, proactive maintenance program, smarter renewal pricing, community programming, financial literacy hook. So it actually brought that up because it knows that we had a nonprofit called Mission Commission that we used to have as a company. So I think that's really interesting. A lot of times it'll pull, things in that it knows about your company. Let's do this. Let's do like a Thrive values check on this. So it'll take that Thrive values check skill and compare these ideas against our core values. So this is where you start to get a lot of value out of being able to use AI, when you start to implement these skills in ways that'll kind of compound the benefits that you're getting from it. So while this is running, does anybody have so here you go. Well, I'll actually just ask the other question too. If anybody has a specific task that you're like, hey, this is something I currently do that I would love to get help with, let me know. So teamwork, humility. So then it flagged, hey, the recommendations here are lean, incremental, and pragmatic, like paint, blah, blah, blah. Worth naming, giving rhinocerality, integrity. Idea 2 frames the annual union check-in as a resident benefit, not an inspection, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it's a silly idea, kind of comparing these recommendations for resident retention with our core values, but that's what a skill will do. Let me pull the brand me thing, since that didn't work, I think, the first go around, and I'll just put it in the same chat here. Cool. So analyze this delinquency report and tell me what trends you see. So I would need to have a delinquency report to do that, but let's do this. I'm going to actually jump into AppFolio's MCP. So I think I've showed you guys this before. I basically now have an API connected to, so I just asked it actually on Friday, what's the biggest issue at each property? And it said, well, here's what's going on with these properties that are critical issues. Here are some high concern properties. Here are some moderate issues. Here are some other things for you to be thinking about. Let's actually ask it here. Look at delinquency across the portfolio and tell me what trends you see. So now when I ask it, so I don't even need to have reports from AppFolio. It'll go into AppFolio and ask it these questions. And what I'm actually building out, by the way, at this app.birgo.com is this like narrative thing. So what I have here is like, so fund one's obviously in wind down mode. Here's like some narrative on some stuff that we were thinking about with a couple of the assets. I have this tied into Claude. So you could say, provide some additional context and do regenerate narrative, and it'll actually come up with a new narrative based on that. So that's kind of how I'm thinking of you all being able to actually access and play around with the MCP server on the back end. And then, so let's see what it says. So it's using the tools. While it's doing that, what are the best practices for high turnover seasons? So that's an easy kind of thing here. So front load the renewal conversation. Don't wait till 60 days out. Start at like 120 plus days. That's pretty good. Stagger lease expirations on purpose. That's obviously something you could do proactively. If it's reactive, it's a little bit hard to do at this point. Pre-stage your turn. Supply chain. That's a good idea. Make sure that the turns go faster. Compress turn time relentlessly. Pricing discipline over panic. So you can see there's a bunch of thoughts here. Let's do this. The brand me thing told me what to do, but didn't actually do it. I'll do this with Birgo branding. It should be a separate chat. I'm butchering this right now, just because I'm trying to fly through it. But those are great examples, Omar. So hopefully it helps kind of see how you could be using Claude or AI in general for, asking it those kinds of questions. The only other thing I was going to show is Claude Excel. So let me just pop into Excel and I'll just show. So I'm pulling these reports from MoveOn that have, pull this in here. This is like a lease trade out report that MoveOn AI was pulling, and you can kind of see what it looks like. So I showed this at the quarterly meeting, but Claude now has a Excel plugin as well that you could ask it to like update an existing spreadsheet or make a new spreadsheet. So it does a really good job at this. I think I showed the discounted cash flow analysis previously, but you'd have to give it like a company and some assumptions to do that. But I could say use this spreadsheet and make recommendations and updates to it based on unit turn trade outs. So it'll review the workbook. It'll come back and make some recommendations there. Let's see while it's doing that, how this is doing. So you'll see it's saying, I'm going to build a brand compliant version with navy and orange on white. And then I'm going to use Red Hat Display, which is our brand font, and use the proper hierarchy. So again, that's just a way in which you can use the skill to do something that you might want to do. Does that kind of make sense? Any questions on any of this stuff? So here's what it came up with on Birgo's branding. There you go. So it took that super plain agenda and put it on Birgo branding. So I could actually open it in Microsoft Word. And you can see it's got Red Hat Display. Looks good. Obviously, I have my dark theme on, so it looks a little different here. But that's sort of the idea.
I think there's a question in the chat.
Oh. Let's see if I can get to the chat.
Should I just read it to you?
Do we all have access to the MCP server is already built? So what I'm going to do is drop the MCP server into our Claude Enterprise account. It's not currently there yet. But what I'd actually like to do is start to leverage this app.birgo.com to really build the tools and have the right interface with that. But I do think that's the, so basically what we're building is what's called a connector. I'll show you my connectors here, just to give you an example of how it works. So Oh, that's around the personal. It shows up in here. So you'll see I have Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, HubSpot, Todoist, things like that. But then I have these custom ones. So like 8 Sleep and Whoop. These are actually MCP servers that I've built out and deployed on this account. So we'll do the same thing with the AppFolio MCP server. We'll drop it onto, our as a connector so that anybody will be able to use it on Claude. All right. Well, time flies. We're gonna kind of start to move to conclude, especially now that we got the screen stuff figured out here. Let me just kind of go ahead and give a recap on what we talked about. Look at that showing up. So just a reminder. Sorry, give me 1 second. Things you want to be thinking about when leveraging AI. So particularly like the mindset is the most important thing. So really think about something that you're working through, a decision or a roadblock, and break through that with AI. I'd love for you to all think about trying to do that like before the end of this week. What's a decision, what's a problem that you're working on that you could use AI to help you solve that problem? And then build one reusable prompt is, another thing you can be working on, which is really just to think about, hey, what's a task that you're doing day in and day out, and how can you use AI to work on that task? And then share an AI win. Want you all to be thinking about like, what are the things that you guys are doing that are working, and share them with the team. I really think that that's a way in which we can get momentum using AI, so that we can see, hey, this is actually working. We're building stuff. It's taking care of the work that we otherwise would have done. So that's all I have for you. Hopefully that was helpful, just to give you a little crash course on AI. Sorry for the technical difficulties early on. We're pretty much at time. So Emma, anything else you have before we wrap?
Have a great week improving lives through real estate.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.